So in this video, we are going to learn about the difference between the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell. So, uh, before we proceed with our lesson proper, I want you to at least see or read the learning objective for this lesson. So, after finishing the module, you should be able to describe the basic structure of the typical prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cell. Next is compare their similar feature and differentiate the two cells according to their distinct characteristics. So let's begin. So, in a human body is known to be home of various microbes, okay? Take note that microorganisms are ubiquitous to our environment and they may thrive to our body. Now, the Human Microbiome Project profiled a human microbiome and concluded that body has more microbes than human cells. So, take note that for every 50 kilogram of an average kilo of a person, you have a 1 kilogram of microbes in your body. So isipin mo 'yon, sa bawat 50 kilogram na isang tao, meron kang 1 kilo na microorganisms. So napakarami talaga. But these microorganisms are very essential para at least makasurvive ka in your everyday life. So let's continue. Uh, we have the two types of cell, okay? The prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic. When we say prokaryotic cell, these are the uh, cells that doesn't have nucleus, okay. A very good example of the prokaryotic cell is the Escherichia coli or the E. coli. Now the E. coli is used to be the main cause of diarrhea, okay. So but in the other way around, they can be essential in helping the digestion of food in our digestive tract. Okay, the next one is the eukaryotic cell. So it has true nucleus. Okay, a very good example of the eukaryotic cells are the plants and the animals. Okay, for a specificity, we have the gumamela. For the similarities of both cells or the mentioned cells, they have plasma membrane, they have cytoplasm, they have both DNA, they have ribosomes and the cytoskeleton, which serves as a framework of their structure. So all cells are categorized between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells. So these are the main difference between the prokaryotic and the eukaryotic cell. So now let's discuss further the prokaryotic cell. A very good example of prokaryotic cell is the bacillus, which is being illustrated here. So the prokaryotic cell is the house its genetic material in an irregularly shaped region called nucleoloids. Okay? Sa nucleoloids, doon mo matatagpuan yung tinatawag niyang DNA. Okay? So, kapag genetic region ang pinag-uusapan, we are talking about the DNA of that animal. Okay? So, we can find the DNA of the prokaryotic cell in the region called nucleoloid. Unlike sa eukaryotic cell, we have the nucleus, right? So in the prokaryotic cell, we have the nucleoloid. So its ribosome is composed of two subunits, 60. Okay, so 50S and 30S. So the S. So take note that the ribosome is the site of the protein synthesis. So basically, they they are able to reproduce at a short span of time because the ribosomes there is scattered. Okay, now they have 60% of RNA. So 60% of RNA, whereas mas madali yung pag-reproduce nila kaysa yung tinatawag nating eukaryotic cell. So, in prokaryotic cell, they have found that they have cytoskeletons, but the other microorganisms or other prokaryotic cells doesn't have, okay? When we say cytoskeleton, it is a structural filament that aids in cell division and other cellular function. So it aids also in the take note that the prokaryotic cell undergoes binary fission. When we say binary fission, they copy their own. They reproduce through binary fission, and the copy is similar to the parent cell. Unlike in human, or unlike in cell division or in meiosis, that there are variation, okay? There are variation in the chromosome, okay? Next is the external structure, okay? Let's discuss the external structure of this uh, example. So we have the cell wall. So when we say cell wall, it is the extra layer of protection usually made of peptidoglycan that provides shape and rigidity to the prokaryote. Okay, cell wall is also present in the plant cell, and it serves also as a support structure for the whole plant or for the whole cell. We have also the capsule. So the capsule is a sticky layer composed of the carbohydrates that aids for the cell attached to the surface. So that's why the capsule, or it's these are the external structure. They are able to attach to the any surfaces, okay, because of the capsule. Now, uh, we have the flagella, okay? So just like in the sperm cell, this prokaryotic cell has also flagella. So when we say flagella, it is a whip-like structure responsible for bacterial motility by responding to the chemical gradients in the environment, okay? So they are able to move from one place to another through the use of the flagella. Okay, next is we have the pili. So this is the pili. So when we say pili, it is a fibrous protein commonly found in bacteria. So it is a protein, and it is used to transfer genetic material during conjugation. So conjugation is a process by which a prokaryotic cell, or as a prokaryotic cell, is attached to to uh, to attach to other prokaryotic cell to at least transfer genetic information. Next, we have also the fimbriae. When we say fimbriae, it is a filamentous structure that are shorter than pili, helps the cell adhere to surfaces. So, in we discussed that the capsule is helps for the attachment, and it is supported by the filamentous structure called fimbriae. So now let's discuss about the eukaryotic cell. But before that, let us uh, see the specialized structure, or v- the different structure of the prokaryotic cell. So we have cell wall, capsule, flagella, fimbriae, and pili. Now let's move on to the eukaryotic cell. When we say eukaryotic cell, we have the cell that has true nucleus, and it is membrane bounded. It has a membrane bounded organelles, allowing compartmentalization in the cell. So when we say membrane bounded organelles, we are done discussing the different membrane bounded organelles. We have the lysosome, nucleus, mitochondria, and many more. So its ribosome is larger than prokaryote and most made of proteins. Okay, it is made up of protein. So the ribosome itself is made up of protein, and it produces protein. Okay, it extracts the RNA coming from the nucleus. So cell division occurs in two major steps, the mitosis and the cytokinesis. So mitosis takes place in the nucleus, while cytokinesis is the total separation of the cell itself. Okay? Now, we have the eukaryotic organelles or cell organelles, which is common. We have the mitochondria, Golgi apparatus or Golgi body, we have the vesicle, lysosomes, and the endoplasmic reticulum. So let's talk about the mitochondria. We are done discussing mitochondria, and we have known that mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell because uh, it has the ability to produce the so-called adenosine triphosphate, which aid for or the ATP, or in the other way, in some other term, it is the energy. So it is responsible for the conversion of glucose to the ATP through cellular respiration. So in cellular respiration, there are different processes, but we're not going to dig in that. So ATP is the energy source of all the cellular functions and processes. So uh, a cell cannot function well without ATP because it needs energy for the parts to become more effectively doing its specific or special function. Next is we have the Golgi body, vesicles, and lysosome. So when we say Golgi body, it is our organelle stack membrane disc called cisternae that packs protein from the rough endoplasmic reticulum into small sphere of phospholipid vesicles and secrete them from the cell. So basically, Golgi body is said to be the packaging center of the cell because uh, it packs the most essential need of the cell through the phospholipid called vesicles. Okay, so lysosomes are a portion of the cisternae that breaks down cellular debris and transport them into the cell. So lysosomes are also responsible for the so-called apoptosis or the programmed cell death. The programmed cell death is conducted if the cell itself cannot undergo its special function anymore. So it will easily be the cell itself will die. Okay, so now the endoplasmic reticulum. So we have the two types of the endoplasmic reticulum. So we have the uh, rough endoplasmic reticulum and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So when we say rough endoplasmic reticulum, it synthesizes and modifies proteins, specifically like for example insulin, and that are either transported out of the cell into the plasma membrane. So, when we say smooth endoplasmic reticulum, they synthesizes lipids and steroids that are major components of the cell membrane. So, lipids or steroids are very functional in building muscles, right? So it is done through the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, in eukaryotic cell, specifically in plants, algae, and fungi, they have commonalities. They have cell wall, vacuole, and chloroplast. Okay, let's start. So in cell wall, the cell wall is the outer layer that provides cell structure and prevents it from bursting due to pressure. Since the the plant cell contains a lot of water inside its vacuole, and aside from that, it contains several organelles that functions well. It needs really a support, and that support came from the cell wall. So there are different cell walls. Okay, we can say that in every organisms they have different cell walls. Okay, in plants, they it the cell wall of the plant contains cellulose. That's why some other plant structure is very hard to break down into small pieces because of the so-called cellulose. So in algae, they have also the so-called carrageenan, and these carrageenan are used in to at least support the whole algae. And in fungi, we have the called chitin, okay, or the chitin na tinatawag natin. So, We have also the vacuole, and take note that both plants and animals has vacuole. So when we say vacuole, it is a membrane-bound sac present in most plant cells and that maintains the water pressure in the cell. So it contains water that serve as uh, that supplies water inside the cell, because water is also an ingredient to make the cell more functional. Now, we have the chloroplast, and chloroplast is only present in plant cell and other uh, plant-like organisms. So, chloroplast is an organelle responsible for the photosynthesis. When we say photosynthesis, a process where plants convert the energy from the sun into the glucose molecule. So, basically, chloroplast contains chlorophyll and other pigments stuck in their thylakoid membrane. So, in this thylakoid membrane, or inside the chloroplast, there are different structures that helps in the regulation or in making in generating energy, okay, in generating uh the energy, okay, or uh the glucose component of the plants. Okay, bakit glucose component? Kasi we can get this glucose component to make or to make uh, okay, glucose is very functional in generating the body heat, okay, in making energy throughout to an organism. So, the eukaryotic cell is structured only in animals. Okay, these structures are only present in the animal cell. So we have the centrioles, flagella, and cilia. So centrioles are cylindrical paired organelle in the cytoplasm that aids the cell during the cell division by producing spindle fiber. So centriole are very responsible in aids for the separation or aids in the making of the so-called spindle fiber. So the spindle fiber it is where the chromosome is attached and it helps in the separation or in the cell division. So it only happens in the animal cell. So they have also the called flagella. Flagella is plural and flagellum is singular. So flagella is a whip-like extension of the cell membrane that is primarily responsible for the cell movement, and it is driven by the ATP. Of course, just like in a sperm cell, a sperm cell is an animal cell. So in a sperm cell, we have the special part of it, which is the mid piece, right? And in the mid piece there is a huge amount of mitochondria, and mitochondria is responsible for the production of ATP, and ATP is very necessary for the flagella to move, okay, because it contains energy. Okay, next we have also the cilia. Cilia is the numerous hair-like structure around the cell that helps in the cell movement. When you say cell movement, motile cilia, and the acts as sensory organelles or the non-motile cilia. So we have two types of cilia. We have the motile cilia and the non-motile cilia. So the non-motile cilia is for sensory organelles, and we have the motile cilia, which is the for movement and locomotion. Okay, so just a trivia. So we have the quorum sensing. Quorum sensing is a bacteria's one method of communication where small chemical signals are released by each bacterial cell. Okay, when a certain amount of chemical signal is reached, the bacteria then move an enormous group and perform a task in unison. So napaka ganda ng napakagandang pag-aralan, 'di ba? Iba iba talaga yung mechanism ng mga microorganisms in order for them to work in unity. Okay? So, these are the main difference between the prokaryotic cell and the eukaryotic cell. So in prokaryotic cell, there are no nucleus. In eukaryotic cell, they have through nucleus. Okay, in prokaryotic cells, uh, there are no membrane bound, whereas in eukaryotic cell, there ha. Okay, there is present my membrane bound organelles. Okay, so. Uh, in the feature for flagella in prokaryotic cell, it is only simple and proton driven, while in eukaryotic it is ATP driven. The cell wall of the prokaryotic cell is made of peptinoglycans that supports the entire cell, and in the cell wall I and the cell wall of of the eukaryotic cell, they it is made up of cellulose, chitin, and carrageenan. So cellulose is for plants, chitin is for fungi, and carrageenan is for algae. Sorry. So ribosomes is smaller in prokaryotic cell while larger in eukaryotic cell. The cell division in prokaryotic cell is binary fission, while in eukaryotic cell is mitosis and cytokinesis. Okay, now that ends my presentation, and I hope that you learned something from this video. uh, Now I want you to comment down the things that you have learned from this lesson, and thank you very much. God bless everyone.